So I've been going to Disneyland ever since I was 3 years old, and for me it was the place that really sparked my interest in the amusement park industry. So naturally, I'd always wondered what the Florida parks were like, and how they compared to Disneyland. Well, in January of this year, I was finally able to find out for myself. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 6 Disney World rides that strongly exceeded my expectations. And just a disclaimer, Rise of the Resistance is not on this list because I was expecting it to be the best dark ride in the world, and it was, so you can't really go up from there. But without further ado, here's the list. Coming in at number 6 on this list is Rockin' Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, there are really 2 main reasons that this ride exceeded my expectations. The first was that I was expecting something on the thrill level as in Credicoaster, and if this ride was outdoors, it might have been on that level. However, putting the ride inside and blasting Aerosmith made this a heck of a lot more fun than Incredicoaster ever is. But the second and main reason this ride exceeded my expectations was because it was built by the manufacturer Vekoma. And for those of you who aren't coaster nerds like me, Vekoma is a manufacturer that is known for building super rough rides, like their Vekoma Boomerang model or their SLC model that you can see at amusement parks across the country. Some of those are literally able to make your ears bleed. But this ride was as smooth as butter, and I never felt like I had to brace myself at all. And for those reasons, this ride definitely exceeded my expectations. Coming in at number 5 on the list is Frozen Ever After at Epcot. Now, I really wasn't expecting to enjoy this ride that much because I'm not a huge fan of the Frozen movies. And for the first half of the ride, it was really just meeting my expectations. But I have to say, the Let It Go scene really impressed me. With the surround sound blasting around you and the awesome visual effects and the little girl in front of me literally having the time of her life, it made me feel like a little kid again. And for that reason, Frozen Ever After exceeded my expectations. Coming in at number 4 on the list is Space Mountain at the Magic Kingdom. The reason that I wasn't that excited for this ride was because how much I've heard people trash on it when comparing it to the Disneyland version, oftentimes complaining about the lack of a soundtrack and the rough ride. Basically, I was expecting a Matterhorn in space, but this was nothing like the Matterhorn at all. First of all, if you are calling this ride as rough as the Matterhorn, you haven't ridden the Matterhorn because that ride tries to kill you. While Space Mountain had padding that was like 3 inches thick. So anytime it threw me around, I was absorbed into a fluffy ball of Disney love. But the main reason that this ride impressed me was the airtime. And for those of you who aren't roller coaster nerds like me, there are really 2 types of airtime. There's floater, which makes you gently float out of your seat, and then there's ejector, which literally tries to throw you. And while brief, this ride actually gave me 3 to 4 pops of ejector airtime while I was sitting in the back row, which is something that the Disneyland version does not do. So, although I went in expecting a boring and rough version of Disneyland Space Mountain, I came out actually questioning which version of the ride I liked more. Coming in at number 3 on the list is Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. For Flight of Passage, I was kinda expecting a weird crossover between Star Tours and Soarin', and to a degree, that's what I got. But this ride is also so much more than that. First of all, the queue for this ride is absolutely massive, and it's one of the most detailed queues that Disney has ever created. From the rockwork outside to all of the amazing science experiments going on inside, I really wish I went on a day where the line was longer so I could have actually stopped and looked at everything. But the queue didn't even compare to the attraction itself, which was one of the most immersive experiences I've ever had on a theme park ride. I really felt like I was flying through Pandora because Disney did such a good job creating immersion, with the smells and wind really selling it. But the small little detail that really did it for me was the little air pumps on the side of the bike that made it seem like the banshee creature was actually breathing. And this is why this ride is number 3, because it is really one of Disney's best attempts I've ever seen at completely immersing the rider into the experience. At number 2 on the list is Tower of Terror at Hollywood Studios. I grew up riding and loving the tower at Disneyland, and I was very sad to see it go. So you can bet I was excited to ride the Florida version, which I had heard was generally considered to be better. But I didn't know just how much better it was going to be. First of all, the design for this tower is far creepier than the one that used to reside at DCA. Something about the Moroccan design with the darker colors is much more ominous than the Art Deco style the California version used to have. You also spend a lot more time winding your way up to the tower, going through the courtyard and the gardens, whereas at DCA you would pretty much just walk straight in. But the main reason this ride impressed me so much is just how much creepier the actual ride is than the DCA ride used to be. Compared to this tower, the DCA ride that I grew up with feels like it's rushing. With how quickly it gets you from scene to scene, it almost felt like the ride was trying to get to the drops as quickly as possible. But with this tower at Hollywood Studios, it's not like that at all. It really lingers on each scene, letting you soak in the atmosphere, especially in the Fifth Dimension room. However, I think the best example of this is the fact that the hallway scene at Hollywood Studios lasts almost 8 seconds longer than the one at DCA used to, with absolutely no dialogue from Fake Rod Sterling. While at the one in DCA, he was talking the whole time, and I didn't realize it until I rode this tower, but there's so much more ambiance to be had when the scene is just quiet. And on top of all that, the randomized drop sequences make the ride much more unpredictable, which is a nice touch. Overall, this tower really impressed me because it showed that a Disney ride actually had the ability to creep me out. And coming in as the ride that most exceeded my expectations at Disney World is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at Hollywood Studios. While this ride definitely isn't my favorite on this list, it's number 1 because the difference between the quality that I expected from this ride and the actual quality was tremendous. Going into Hollywood Studios, I was beyond excited for things like Rise of the Resistance and Tower of Terror, and I even forgot that this ride existed. Pretty much all I knew about it going in was that it was going to be a trackless dark ride with 2.5D technology, whatever that meant. But this ride has so much energy to it, and there's never really a dull moment, with things constantly going on around you. I feel like I could ride it 100 times and still not catch everything. I was so immersed into the cartoon world that sometimes I forgot I was on a ride, as it literally felt like I was inside a Mickey Mouse cartoon. But the main thing that did it for me was the technology. I think the one part of this ride that exemplifies this the best is the part where you're entering the tropical area, and then you go into the little simulator part of the ride, and then you turn around and you're underwater. It's crazy that you were able to completely switch environments without even leaving the room with just some projections. And that's not even to mention all the awesome interactions and other features that this trackless dark ride has to offer. Overall, I was far more thrilled about a ride based on Mickey and Minnie than I ever thought I would be. And I'm beyond excited for it to be coming to Toontown at Disneyland because now I'll be able to ride it whenever I want. So that concludes my list of the top 6 rides that exceeded my expectations at Disney World. Stay tuned to see some of the rides that didn't exceed my expectations. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more exceptionally average content from the Theme Park Zone.